And I think there's a snobbishness with reading books. They are a bit outdated. They're a little bit like playing the spoons and tap dancing and the theatre. They were good once, but things have moved on.
The head's not quite on the right place. That's his little issue that he's got to work on for the moment.
My apartment smells of rich mahogany.
Look, I'm all for innovation, and I advocated putting a scrum half in the line out. It sounds great, but it's bollocks idea, really.
Hello and welcome to Under the Sticks, a podcast brought to you by Pro 14 Rugby, where we, as always, will attempt to deliver half-baked opinions served up as real, authoritative rugby analysis. Probably bringing behind the scenes for a second. We were just chatting away with the producer beforehand, and I think he was getting impatient because he just disappeared and he played the intro credits. And that's how this show is going to go tonight. My name's Andy McGeady. We're going out live on the Pro 14's social channels, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We have Mr. Sean Holley. How are you?
Tanned.
You're very tanned.
Yeah, it's not fake. There's a lot of people with fake tans in South Wales, but I've been playing a lot of golf. I have a golf business, as you know, and so I've been out a lot, so it stops here. And I'm fine. Looking forward to going to Scotland tomorrow for 4 days. Going to see Danny Wilson, the Glasgow Warriors coach. He won't be in very good mood this week. But yeah, I'm good, mate. Thanks. Good. We've had some great weather down here.
Many of your former Ospreys Chargers will be proud of your colour right now.
Indeed. They'll all be tuning in, going now, hope you got your silver golden boots on. Yeah.
Hairspray royalty. Paul Williams, how are you?
I am very well, gentlemen. How are you?
Good form. We have producer Adam Redmond in the background. We will have Pro 14 referee chief Greg Garner on to talk about some things that happened last weekend. We spent a lot of time last week, so now we get to do the review and see how it all went, because it was very, very interesting. Hello to some of the regulars. Michael Jenkins from Pembrokeshire, West Wales. Harley Worthy, evening gents. Ollie Hughes, how are you? Yeah.
Do you know, can I just say my favourite comment on there so far is from Luke Conway, because we were about 2 minutes late, and it just says, come on, get on, for God's sake. Come on.
Yeah, we were a little bit late, sorry. But we're going to look back to the weekend that was. We'll look ahead to the first South African round of the Rainbow Cup. This was an unorthodox weekend because we had Benetton coming off to an incredible start. Didn't see that coming. We had Peter O'Mahony throwing mad passes. Benetton scoring, two locks, Canone on fire. Paul, if you want to break the record for your earliest mention of a column, now's the time.
Oh, man, I wrote about that lad Canone.
There you
to
go.
Score
Done.
one try like that for a lock is freaky. To score two, it's hallucinogenic. It's brilliant.
We had a big truck it up the centre, number 12 for Munster.
I've been telling Sean he's been wrong about the Allende all season.
You can try and cast aspersions about who said what with the Allende, but it's on record.
For those who weren't listening early on, I may have said the Allende is a crash ball centre.
How about this dynamic duo, Wainwright and Ross Moriarty? They were on fire.
Yeah, Wainwright is amazing.
Really
he looks like
good.
he's put on a bit of size, Wainwright, to move to 8. He's playing really well.
Yeah, he looks bigger.
He does look. His legs look a lot bigger.
And here's one thing which we probably will have some chat this evening, because when we were on air last week, we were preparing for Rainbow Cup version 1. We now have Rainbow Cup version 2, which is a split competition. Next week, we'll have the chief bottle washer of the Guinness Pro 14, Martin Anai, on the show. So that's our way of saying we don't get paid enough to answer some of those questions, but please get them in. So we'll remind you later on as well, because we want to have a really good chat about, I suppose, state of the union of the Pro 14, what's happening next season, what happened this season, the late change of play for the competition. All those questions, we're going to put them to Martin next week. So please get them in. Ping us on Twitter, ping the Under the Sticks Twitter account, drop them into any of us on Twitter via DM or whatever. We'll We'll scoop best up, and we'll do it right. Gents, we're going to have Greg Garner in very, very soon. But there was it was a surprising old weekend. We're going to talk Dragons later. There were a lot of points in that game. So what was it like sitting there in the sun, Sean?
Well, it was great in the sun in the presentation bit, but then when you went up to commentate in the shade, it was a little bit chilly, funnily enough. But the pitch was baked in sunshine all game. And you know what? To go back to what you're saying about having Martin and I on next week, there was so much negativity around the fact that the original version of the Rainbow Cup couldn't now happen. I was just delighted the way the players and coaches approached the weekend, because there were some fantastic games, great rugby, and it was a little bit of a two fingers up to all the half-empty glass people. Oh, very funny. Yeah, very funny. Yeah.
We were instructed.
It's a
whenever you spoke.
It's a stitch-up. All right.
It's a Blues Brothers moment, and if you're, we probably have to explain that. Sorry, we just put on shades because Holley's ridiculous.
I was like the half. We were threatened contractually by Redmond if we didn't put those on. That was it.
I will put it this way: I was just about to laud the Guinness Pro 14 for what it's done in the difficult circumstances of the Rainbow Cup. No, we're not going to bother.
It's spiteful.
No, I will carry on. I think there's a lot of negativity around it but you have to say the Guinness Pro 14 have done everything in their power to try and get this Rainbow Cup on. And then for any negativity to be around it, you only had to be at one of those games. I watched them all, and I was at the Dragon Scarlets, and those players seem to have a new lease of life. It's like a little bit of a pre-season feel to it, but shackles are off. We've got some low variations, which is great. Opportunity for young players. There's still a Lion squad ahead and some summer tours and so on. So I like the mix. And do you know what? In the 6 games, there was on average 7.5 tries a game.
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
I think it was too. And I just I've put in my column, second mention, you can't bring South African players over here and change foreign policy just because we want to throw rugby balls around. That happened, and you've got to get on with it. And the standard of rugby last weekend was fantastic. The warm weather helped, the offloading in some of the games is brilliant.
Okay, look, so can I bring some of there's a few comments in here which I do want to bring in, because we're not going to sit here and say that's all great. Let's make sure we get some of these points in. So Connor HD, Rainbow Cup was pointless. Leinster had already put it in the bin, playing loads of youngsters since they have a Heineken Cup next week. Sean O'Farrell, hold on, my turn. Sean O'Farrell, Leinster more focused on the semi-final with La Rochelle. Lad, that's all fine, right? That's all fine. There's 2 big things going on here. One, they'd have had a semi-final with La Rochelle anyway, right? So if it was the normal run of events, would we be giving out for them perhaps resting a few players, bringing players back? It would be the same, okay? The second thing I'll say is the IRFU made 20 redundancies in the last month, okay? Of behind-the-scenes staff, not players, behind-the-scenes staff, people who'd already gone back down to a 4-day week. That's the environment we're operating in. So when I see a competition or anyone trying to get more money in, and that's what we'll ask Martin about this, he'll have more detail than me, but from my ignorant point of view, I see that need money. COVID has changed everything financially, need money. And when you see people losing their jobs, that's a big reason for why they're really trying until the last minute to do this.
And do you know what? Point 3, it wasn't that weak a team.
Well, that's what I want to say. To Connor RHD, right? Because we sit here week in, week out, and we laud Leinster for putting youngsters out, brilliant, who then get in the Island squad, and then they win the Guinness Pro 14 2/3 of the season with these players, like your Scott Pennies and so on. And now you can't turn around and just say, they've already put in the bin because they put loads of youngsters. I mean, rattle these off. Andrew Porter, hello. Ed Byrne, Ross Maloney, youngster, was played all season. James Ryan, could be in a Lions tour now. Ryan Baird, Island squad. Scott Penny, fantastic. James Lowe, hello. Rory O'Loughlin, been brilliant all
Lama.
season. Gary Ringrose, Dave Carney, Jordan Lama, Sean Cronin on the back, and then I go on Michael Bench, Fardy. No, I'm not having that. Sorry.
They got a
Yeah,
little
it's not
pin.
that big a rotation. I think that's overplaying it. What he said there, whoever made that comment, it was diluted, but not diluted to the point of homeopathy. That was a strong team.
Let's not concentrate on one commenter, because in fairness, that was a feeling in around a lot of, be it. I'm not going to say read the comments, because there were people writing articles and were mentioning the same things. Okay, so
yeah, true enough.
Right. So look, we'll go into that properly next week. We'll talk about a lot of the Rugby on show this week. Sean O'Farrell, you forgot David Hawkshaw. Yeah, I was very, very close to getting a last-minute call up to play fly half at the weekend. That's how thin Leinster got, because Harry Byrne being out is not good news when Jonathan Sexton has already pulled from proceedings. It's not great for Mr. Sexton, but right, we have actual expertise ready to come onto the pitch here, because there were law variations in play last week. So Greg Garner is ready to join us. We found this very interesting last week. Greg, how are you?
Good, thanks, guys. How are you doing?
Not too bad, thank you, Mr. Garner. How are you?
Very good. Very good. Enjoying the sunshine. It's good.
I know.
Oh,
we all look ill compared to Holley, though. Look at that.
That's pretty much anyone compared to Holley this week. Jesus. But you know what? I'm just jealous.
The good old days of the Ospreys.
Oh, we've had that, Ghana. They cut that out.
So, Greg, last week on the show, we spent a good amount of time trying to talk through the new variations that are in play for the tournament. I'm conscious that it's a change for the officials as well as the fans, the media, and the players. How did you guys prepare with your referee group for bringing in these changes?
Yeah, so what we did, so they're doing all these things in Super Rugby at the moment. So Super Rugby Aotearoa in New Zealand, especially around the Captain's Challenge. So we did a lot of work with New Zealand, so with Bryce Lawrence there, sort of high performance manager. So got in touch with him and chatted through sort of the experiences they've had since they've been doing it at the start of this season of rugby. But I know Keith came on with some of the guys last week on one of their calls where we discussed it. So we got all the information from them. And then we spent last sort of 2 weeks just trying to go through every single possible what-if question we could sort of come across in these things. And we had a good 2 hours with all the referees last Tuesday and all the referee coaches, where we just tried to go through the variations, especially around the Captain's Challenge. What might we have to deal with? What might be the issues? How are we going to deal with it? All those sort of questions. So, but nothing quite prepares you for the real thing. And there were certainly some good examples of the weekend that we hadn't discussed. So, which is always interesting.
Yeah, there's some good ones even within games. Some real, there were some interesting challenges through. There were some challenges about being specific with what you are challenging, and it's something we touched on last week.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Let's talk about when we've got some clips to show, but let's go to the Leinster Munster match at the RDS, because there were two interesting challenges in that match where the referee went to the same reaction to the captain on both sides when he said, "Look, it's a line out, and scrum can't be challenged." And then I know from the Munster side afterwards, I understand that they were challenging something technical, as in a foul play as the maul was formed after the line out as opposed to the line out itself. And this is where we get into the real minutiae of it and the ability to be clear on the pitch in the heat of battle. So from your perspective, what came through from the official side?
Yeah, so I guess you're talking about the maul at the end of the game. Is that what from the Leinster Munster game? Is that the one of them? Yeah,
well, there was the one at the very end. The Leinster's was kind of a magic 8-ball challenge, whereas Munster's challenge seems to be a little more specific, right? And there was an extended discussion where a number of players were trying to get their point across the referee as to what they were challenging. And again, I I'm more interested into how that comes back to you and how you discuss it as a group.
Yes, so we'll get together tomorrow as a group, and we'll go through all of these things. So I think what's really important at the start of this is, look, this is an experiment. We're trying to do this along with other tournaments around the world to try and make the game better, to try and make it clearer for everybody watching it, especially the fans and certainly the players and the coaches. And so we are going through a period of adjustment where, it's a bit of a fact-finding mission. That's a healthy trick you got there.
I know. Flip. Do you know what? I'm so sorry. I keep forgetting I'm doing it. What a way to puncture an interview. As you were, Mr. Garner.
Yeah. You used to be on the radio, I guess. It's a bit of a fact-finding mission, and it's a trial. We're doing it. We're going to get lots of data from the games, lots of instances that we can go back to World Rugby with, and look, if it works, it's fantastic. It's only going to make the game better. But yeah, I mean, the interesting thing I think from what I saw at the weekend in the Leinster Munster game is, and we did talk about this when we were preparing for this, it's called the Captain's Challenge. Now, the reality is, a lot of the time, the captain, let's say, Alan Wynne-Jones, for example, second row, he's busting his gut around the pitch. Probably most of the time, he's not really going to know what's going on in every area of the pitch. The best people or the best placed people to do this are going to be the coaches. So inevitably, there's going to be messages coming on from the sideline, from the coaches are going to see it on their their laptops on a replay, and they're going to try and get messages onto the pitch as quickly as possible. And that was what we learned from Super Rugby, where they said they had a 10-second limit for when captains could challenge the referee after he blew his whistle. The reality was it just wasn't long enough for the messages to get onto the pitch, and then the captain to get it through. So these messages are coming on, and certainly, some of the clips I saw at the weekend, I'm just trying to think a good one would be.
Well, we've got Ulster. We'll run the Ulster clip one, the Ulster challenge, and then we'll get to a couple of them. I'll tee them up for you so you know what's coming, and we can bring the audience through at the same time. So Adam, whenever you're ready, you start rolling Ulster or Connacht first, whichever you have handy. So this is the Ulster challenge. This was a funny one. So to set the scene, right? Ulster have just scored a try, a nice little try to go ahead at home, 22-21, with the conversion to come. The Ulster captain has challenged, and even it's very funny listening back to the commentary because the commentators are assuming the Connacht captain has challenged something about the try. Okay. It's actually the Ulster captain who's spotted or who has been informed that there's foul play in the build-up here. So we'll run this. Bit of a pause there while we're waiting here. So what happened was Matty Ray got hit a couple of phases beforehand.
The tackle. Yeah, the Papali tackle, wasn't it? Papali hits Matty Ray. Big shot. Also scored the try. Matty Lee obviously gets up, thinks he's been hit in the head, and he goes to his captain. I can't remember who the captain was. Right, there's been foul play. I've had a high tackle. Can you check that? They check it, and to be fair to them, they do it pretty good. The coverage with the camera footage was really good, and there's no foul play. So they ultimately lose their challenge, which is interesting in that game because then the way that the game unfolded with the last play of the game, Connacht kept their challenge in reserve. And, and this is probably the one example where actually you can say the captain's challenge is a good thing because there was, something that was missed by Andrew Brace at the end of the game that ultimately meant that game carried on and Connacht got awarded a penalty. And then they scored a try a couple of minutes later, a perfectly legitimate try. That then changed the nature of the game. Whereas if we hadn't have had the captain's challenge, he would have awarded a knock on at the end of the game, and the game would have been over. So you can say,
Craig, do you know if the Ulster one was a coach message or was it players on the field?
I have no idea. I imagine it. I don't know. I imagine it might have been players on the field. So the one that was interesting, the one from the Scarlets game to Scarlets Dragons, where they challenged a try after about 20 minutes, I think. I'm pretty sure that came from the coach, because you could see one of the water carriers coming on and having a chat with Brian Elias. So,
and it was a pretty rubbish one as well.
Yeah, it obviously, yeah. I think the right on that occasion, my view, the right outcome. They arrived at the right outcome. There was no obstruction. This is the second one. If we get this one to work. So if it's not working, I mean, can't make a break. I think we just missed. Can't make a break. It's a tackle. Yeah, ball comes loose. Now. Okay.
But basically, he's asking then for ball played on the floor. I think right. There was the replacement scrum half had a bit of back chat, so he's having a little look at it now.
Went ballistic at the end and is just shouting at the current captain, Owen Masterson.
And that's what we don't want.
Challenge it.
That's one of the reasons why we want a captain's challenge, because it stops any players having a pop at the ref all the time. We want to get rid of that.
Yeah, we do.
Here it is.
I think Kieran Marmion just got a bit excited. I think so. Look, clearly stripped by Mike Lowry, so legally on the floor. It's a clear penalty. Look, if we hadn't have had the captain's challenge, that would have been ruled as a knock-on. I can understand that. I can understand why a referee would rule that as a knock-on. That would have been ruled as a knock-on.
Can I help out some of our viewers here? Because if you're looking at this real fast, we praise players a lot for going for the ball, okay, and stripping it. What was done wrong here by the tackling player that made it an obvious penalty?
So tackle. Well, that's a good place to pause it. So the tackle's now complete. So Kieran Marmion's got his knee onto the ground. He's being held by Mike Lowry, and then whilst Mike Lowry's on the ground, he then strips the ball. So there. So that tackle's complete. He's got to release and roll away.
Can I ask you a question here, Greg? Right? Connacht have challenged the incident on the floor, right? The TMO and the ref, they look at whether that's a forward pass or not. That's not what they're challenging.
Yeah, so again, we talked about that as well. No. I mean,
this is nothing. The ref has a judged play on you. So why go back and have a look at the forward pass when that is the challenge, that incident there?
So we did talk about this, and what we said was, look, if, rugby's such a high-paced, very technical game, and things do get missed. That's the nature of the sport. And if we were to look at something on the screen, so let's say we're reviewing, a whatever it may be, a try or whatever, and then something comes to light that we just completely missed on the day. So let's say there's a try, and in the act of scoring, there's an illegal shoulder charge where there's a player trying to make the tackle, stop the player from scoring. Completely illegal, makes contact with his head. It's very, very dangerous. We did actually talk about things like that, and we said, look, if something comes to light that we've missed, well, we should deal with it because everybody sees it. So, if that pass, some people probably could say it's forward. I think, it comes out of the hands backwards. It's not clear and obvious for me. But if, say, it was a clear and obvious, massive miss forward pass, then I think we wouldn't be doing the game. We'd be doing the game a disservice if we didn't deal with clear and obvious.
So could I still have my captain's challenge back then?
Yeah, again, I mean, in theory,
it's a good point, though, isn't it? Because
it is, isn't it?
Because it's a very broad. What that essentially means, what Sean is saying, is that all you're saying is, has something gone wrong there? Can you find something that's gone wrong? And it could be the thing that you weren't challenging for. It is a little grey area.
Exactly. So I look, we'd have to talk about it. I can't remember. As I say, this is all new. We're all learning every week. We're going to get together tomorrow. We're going to discuss these in detail, and we'll refine it, and we'll probably answer that question.
Yeah.
And to me, it makes sense. If that pass had have been forward, and Andrew Brace has gone, look, sorry guys, we've missed a clear forward pass here.
Yeah.
Then I would say it's fair then that team get that challenge back.
Yeah.
I guess I look to cricket, and cricket's probably where the one sport that I look where they've probably got this right with the referral system. So let's say in cricket they appeal for an LBW. or for whatever reason it's actually come off the bat and there's a call behind, they would still give that out.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Even though
right.
they would still, if it's out, it's out. So, that's probably where sort of common sense must prevail on these sort of situations.
Yeah.
We got a question from
But yeah,
Chrissy
does that
Hine
make
from the
sense?
Pretenders. Can you count a challenge?
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, again, we talked about that. So, for example, let's say, try and give you an example. We talked about. So, let's say, Connacht are playing Ulster. Connacht have got the ball, and there's a dangerous tackle, whatever, and so I'm just trying to think. So, Connacht review that, say, look, we've had a dangerous tackle by Ulster, we want to review that. The referee looks at it and goes, oh my God, like that's a really bad challenge. That, ticks the red card criteria. I'm going to issue a red card. We then said that Ulster cannot then come back and challenge that decision. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we get Connacht to a captain's challenge. It results in a card for Ulster. Ulster cannot come back and challenge that.
You'd just be reviewing the same thing anyway, wouldn't you?
And that's exactly what we said.
Review.
You're reviewing the same thing, and it's the same people would be reviewing the same thing. So
I'd love if they got into weird technical points that technically each one was correct, and they'd keep going, okay, you're correct, and you keep your captain's challenge, and then the next guy goes, aha, but, and then they go. We've got our video working again, so let's show people the Ulster challenge, and then we'll move on to a different game.
Challenge that.
I think Alan Connor was hoping.
Andy, they're having a look to see if they can find anything for you.
Okay. I really don't know. The problem is, if you
here's something coming up now.
Oh yeah, Papa Leahy on Matty.
So this is great that we had the audio for that, because that is what it was like at the time.
I look at that and it's just a big hit. I can understand maybe why Matty Ray thinks thinks he's been hit in the head, but I look at that and I go from a refereeing point of view, is there foul play? I don't really see it. I don't see any foul play there. I see a legal tackle.
What's interesting there, Greg, is that there's been a coaching spat around the insinuation that Ulster have tried to get a Connacht player off the field.
Right.
And Papa Lee's reputation
he's a good
before him, so if it looks and feels a little bit high, the chances are, unfortunately, with Papa Lee, he's got form, that it might be. So if I'm thinking, if I'm Dan McFarlane, then that's not a bad review, because we've only just gone in the lead. There's only 8 minutes to go. If we can get him off, and that's what I was trying to say before these came in, gents. Remember?
Yeah.
About these sort of thoughts, and that's how coaches. It's a winning game at the end of the day, a professional game, and that's what they will do.
To be fair, with Papa Lee, you could challenge him for a red card, and he's taking his tracksuit off. He hasn't even had to step on the field, although he was brilliant on the weekend, I must say.
So and look, I think we've got to remember why this was brought in. It's to make the game better, and it's to get rid of the clear and obvious refereeing errors or misses. And when people, we talked about this last week as well, and the thing that sticks out in my mind was going back to cricket, was the Ashes test, the last Ashes series up here. So 5th test, final day, Australia are trying to bowl England out to win the Ashes. I think whatever it is, it's 2-2 in the series. Nathan Lyon, the off spinner, is on. It's our, it's Ben Stokes or whatever it was, or whatever game it was, and there's about half an hour left. Australia need one more wicket to win, and they use their last review on a ridiculous challenge that was never going to be out, hoping that there's some miracle that's going to say, right, yes, it's out, you've won the game. They use it, they lose their challenge. 10 minutes later, there's a real clear and obvious decision that should have been given out, and they used up their review, so they ultimately lost the test match, or drew the test match and lost the Ashes. So, and that's the clip here. So, Ulster, they've used their captain's challenge there. Whether that's come from the coach, I don't know. if it has, well, that's fine. But then you look how that game unfolded, and let's say that became a 1-score game at the end. There could have been a situation. Let's say the last try, the winning try, there was something missed in the build-up to that try that was just missed, and Ulster see it and go, we want to challenge that. Well, they've used up their captain's challenge, and it's their fault. So then all the pressure goes back on them for not using it effectively and sensibly.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Benetton performance against Glasgow, but later. But within that was a shocking captain's challenge by, I think it was Ryan Wilson. I think Xander Ferguson owes him a pint for saying that he would have made the tackle, because that was never happening, and it was just an awful challenge. We'll move on to another before we go.
Yeah, and again, this is where everybody will learn. And there were a couple of challenges at the weekend which I felt, which ended up not being the decision wasn't overturned. So there's one at the end of the Ospreys Cardiff game where the game is done and dusted. I didn't really understand that challenge.
We've got this lined up here, actually, so our glamorous producer can line up the tape. It's actually in added time in this game.
This is unfortunately, if you hold your nerve like Connaught for something happening at the end of the game, or it becomes a dead rubber. It's almost like waking up the next morning with a beer token in your pocket that you haven't used, isn't it? You can't use it for anything. So, Owen Lane's thinking, well, do you know what? I got one left. The game's over. I'll throw it into the ref anyway.
Yeah.
This is interesting. The logic in it.
But I mean,
so can I ask it, Greg? Can I tee this one up, because there were a couple of questions over the weekend around situations like this, because in the kind of the short version of the explainer for what the captain's challenge can and can't do. One of the shortcuts is you can't challenge a line out or a scrum. And in this, they were very specific about its obstruction. So that's challenging foul play. And you can even hear the referee in the audio explaining to the Ospreys captain that, no, I know that they're challenging foul play.
Yeah. And again, and this is, maybe something that when these trials have been completed, World Rugby will take the evidence and maybe they'll look at it and say, well, actually, you can challenge, technical offences around set piece, because, most of the offences at line out are going to be foul play. I think, most of the, whether it's jumping across, it'd be playing a man in the air, taking a support player out, obstruction, that they all fall under the foul play, law. Because, I think, I can't remember what it is, but it's, you can't do something that endangers the safety of another player. So all of those things fall under foul play. You could argue same for a scrum, but I just think, with the scrums, because it's such a technical part of the game, it would just make it a little bit more difficult for the referee. But we maybe after these trials, they do recommend that we can challenge the scrum as well.
Another consideration?
You go, Sean. Yeah.
Just another consideration here, if somebody works on the TV, is the broadcasters, at the Dragon Scarlets, it took actually 53 minutes to complete the first half. Now, I know there were some injuries, a couple of TMOs, one captain's challenge. So we started the running order knowing that we had, I think it was 16 minutes at the end of the game to do analysis, coach chats, this, that, and the other. By the time the game finished, we had 6. So it has, the game is the most important thing, don't get me wrong, but it probably has implications for now. Look, a half doesn't last 40 minutes anymore.
Well, no. Oh, it does. Yeah, it does. And, look, we're very conscious, broadcasting, broadcasters are really important in the business. And, we get a considerable amount of as a tournament, we get a considerable amount of our income from broadcast. So we've got to do what we can to make the broadcast a decent product. And if, let's say it's, from start to finish of a program, let's say you get 2 hours, 15 minutes for a game that should, in theory, last 1 hour, 20 minutes. Now, if that game is lasting 2 hours, because, say, there have been halves of rugby, look at the end of the Six Nations, the Wales-France game in Paris, that second half was over an hour. so if we're getting games that last 2 hours, all of a sudden our broadcasters are on the pump because they've got to go to their next program, which is not doing anybody. And also if you're even if you're in the ground and you're seeing all this going on and you're getting to the end of the game, you go, well, it's 2 minutes to go, I'm going home now. Or you turn off the channel and you move on. That's not good for anybody. So, we want to get the game speeded up. This is going to be an issue. And one of the things we've talked about, and if you look at the Captain's Challenge in a couple of, so the end of that last instance in the Ulster Comet game, is we put the pressure on the referees. You've got to referee out your socks for the last 10 minutes of the game, certainly the last 5 minutes, because any mistake that you make, the teams are going to be able to challenge that in the there and then, in the here and now, rather than wait for the review process and the feedback process, which happens anyway. But that last play in the Connacht game, unfortunately, it was a miss by the referee. And the pressure is like, if the referee had got that decision right, well, we wouldn't have had a Captain's Challenge anyway. So in a way, I mean, I know we're pushed for time here, guys, but in a way, that one of the positives that I'm trying to get with the referee team is you're only going to get challenged when you make bad decisions. So nobody wants to make a bad decision, don't get me wrong. And, they work incredibly hard, the referees, as we all know. But it's just that putting a little bit more pressure on them, going, well, look, if your decision making is better, you're not going to get challenged.
On that note, we're going to let Greg go. And I'm going to say that I, for the first time in a little while, had the full copy of the World Rugby Law book out in front of me today because of this topic, and I'm not happy about it. So, Greg, thank you. Look forward to having you on again.
Thanks, Greg.
See you, Greg Garner.
Anytime, I hope that was useful. Okay.
Great.
That was great.
Cheers, Greg.
Thank you for your time. It's useful having the actual referee chief on, and you know what? That was good. Holley, you asked a couple of good questions there. Well done.
Thanks, mate. I'm on fire.
Yeah. I will say there's something which is coming out to me over watching this, the type of challenges that we're going through this weekend. I think that perhaps a few people, including ourselves, we think of the term foul play and we hear dangerous play. When actually foul play takes in loads of what I would call technical stuff, right? And I think this would be a lot easier if they said you can challenge dangerous play at any time, which includes, the rough stuff.
Yeah, you're totally right. Like you say, that obstruction at the mall, that is foul play.
It's foul play. So we don't think of that as foul play.
That's right. It's a really good point to make. I'd never even thought of it like that.
Well, as I said, I had the law book out and I was going, Jesus. Shit. Okay, right. Because I knew I was missing stuff at the weekend. But anyway, I was really disappointed we had no red cards this week. I dearly wanted. Now, Stephen Archer tried his best. He tried.
Stephen Archer. What was he doing?
So, I was going to ask Greg that.
In time to the 1980s.
Aside from the tries, and I haven't got the fact yet. I was going to ask Greg, but I get the feeling it was a better behaved weekend.
Yeah.
It was like there was a bit of a pre-season feel to some bits of the games. I think you nailed it when you described it earlier on, and it did have that kind of feel at times. But also there was a lot of good heads-up stuff played, including a goal line dropout, which was very, very good. Glasgow fans, this was the best part of your game. Okay, none of the rest of this game was good for you, but this was very, very good heads up rugby. Because right now, Leonardo Sarto thinks he's scored a try. His teammates probably think he scored a try. They're slapping him on the back. Referee says no, it's not, and it's a goal line dropout. And Glasgow immediately hike it to a lad completely unmarked, who then has to run 90 yards to score. It was brilliant. Loved it.
That's what it's brought in for. The teams that have the balls or the ingenuity reaction to do that deserve to be rewarded with a try like that. a lot of teams, I've watched a lot of the Super Rugby, they just belt it down the field because they just want to get out of dodge. Understand that because they're alert. But at the moment where these teams in the Guinness Pro 14 Rainbow Cup are just getting accustomed to that, they wouldn't really know where to line up when they're tired. They would have touched on it in training, but there will be space there somewhere. Some teams are working on that sort of thing. Obviously, Glasgow being one of them.
Yeah, and that's weird. That's why in my head I totally forgot that had happened because I was expecting a deep restart up to the halfway line, and in my head I don't know why I put that under quick free kick, tap and go. Really
No, I
clever,
think because
though.
you were having a slug of Pepsi at the time, and you just
That's what
didn't
it
see
is. Yeah, I got the blind side of that when that goes over the eyes. You miss anything.
But
for 2 seconds.
do you know what helps do stuff like that, Sean? When you're 38-0 down and you don't care anymore, and you're just going like, do you know what?
And you
Give
want
it a
to fly
shot,
home.
lads. Give
There
it
is
a
that.
shot.
There is that. But I think, the heads up you mentioned, because what I found coaching, there are pockets of space that you won't really see when you're looking at you can't cover everywhere. 15 guys, you can't. There are kicks you can perfect where there's space and you can run an angle into. It just requires a bit of precision, but you can do it. You can really do it.
Let's talk about some more heads up rugby because Dragons fans, you're out there. You got a bit of a treat this weekend. So we didn't go much into the rugby earlier on. We were talking about the occasion and Sean's suntan. But Sean, you were there. You got a lot of points.
It was 84 points. Brilliant from the Dragons. I will say, right, because I did my prep in building up to this on the Dragons. Someone was due a beating by the Dragons. They've got to a point where they've started to play some real good rugby, attacking shape, but haven't executed or got a little bit nervous in the lead with 65, 70 minutes gone because they're not used to being there. And potentially that could have happened here because they've just scored and then Yestin rescores straight from the kickoff. And the Scarlets actually went in at halftime leading. And I'm thinking it could be same old story here. And then all of a sudden, these two get in the game. Wainwright and Ross Moriarty, right? The dynamic duo. They were brilliant. Ross Moriarty was excellent. And Sam Davis is playing really well. They've got Jonah Holmes on absolute fire. Rio Dyer's having to play because Ashton Hewitt isn't playing. All of a sudden, they spark into all their passes were sticking. They're playing with real width. Look at this. He shrugs, he rides that tackle, gets up. And watch this for a little pass coming up here now. This is not what you're used to seeing from Ross Moriarty. He normally take contact. So something's happening now. And they're starting to realise. And that boy there, number 4, Ben Carter, watch out for him. Could be the next Alan Wynne. Never know. But having said that, Scarlets were embarrassing second half. Yeah, talk about leaky tap. That is now 145 or 147 points conceded in the last 3 games they've played, 2 of which at home. Now they can do this. They score fantastic tries. They counter-attack. You then kick the ball loose or turn the ball over against them. They're good off first, second phase. But it's no point scoring 32 if you're conceding 52, is it?
No, that's right. I think who really impressed me was a Nairin Owen in the centre again. He's been playing really well. He's one of a new batch of young centres coming through in Welsh rugby.
Yeah.
And I thought Roger Williams played really well as well. He had an unfortunate injury at the end there, diving in the corner, but he controlled the game really well.
I think something's not, when you see teams defending like this, something's not quite right. I'm not sure they've got a fully designated defence coach since Byron Hayward's gone and Johan Cunningham, and that's showing a little bit lack of detail because a lot of the tries they concede are sort of transitional stuff. But then to concede this, a first phase try when you got a British Lion in the centre and then internationals in your back 3, it's well taken. It's beautiful precision from the Dragons, but he shouldn't be conceding them, No.
Well, he beat 10 defenders, Jonah Holmes. That's a massive number for anybody,
I like him.
But yeah, I do too. He's been. I think he's other than Jamie Roberts. I think he's arguably been their signing of the year.
But to go back to your point, Paul, and Andy, there were times in the game where the Dragons were ahead. They had opportunities to either go for the sticks or go for the corner, and they were on a little. They're not used to being in that position.
No.
Do we nail this home? Do we go for the corner, run the clock down? And I think once they get a couple of performances like that and they start maturing, a lot of those young players, look, I think look out, he's building something nice there, Dean. So I was delighted for him. I was a bit worried about the Scarlets because I was expecting a reaction from.
Great comment here from Harley Worthy. Can't decide who I'm more impressed by, the Dragons back row or the Dragons back three.
That's nice.
Talent there.
It's really good. And you look at the Dragons back row, they've got 6 really good back row forwards now. And I mean 6 back row forwards that wouldn't look out of place if they were at, in a top 14 side or top of the Aviva. They've got proper depth in the back row now.
Yeah, it's good.
Ali Craig, Sean, what are your views on Glasgow Warriors? Some of their supporters are hysterical and not in a funny way. That was bad at the weekend.
The only thing I'd say, right, is it's been I know it's been a difficult season for everyone, but I think Danny's had it pretty tough in terms of what he's had available to him. I think he told me when I went up for the Ospreys game to work on that, I think he told me that there's something like he'd had 30 players on loan or something. He had a 13 in one game. I think it was that game, who had never played a game of 15s in his senior career. Now, he was dragging second rows out of the lower leagues. Look, I'm not making excuses because professionally they should be doing better, and I think he knows that. So, yeah, he's feeling it. As I said, I'm playing golf with him on Thursday. So, Ali, if you drop me the same question next Monday night, I'll get it from the horses out. I think
what was weird about the weekend, though, is that the Glasgow had a reasonable team. That there were some tidy players playing there away at Treviso, and they were blown away. Garbisi looked like he was playing touch rugby.
Yeah.
He was just coming up over the game line like it was nothing. Every single time up first phase, he was making a break.
I completely agree, because that team sheet did not look silly,
No.
And like Benetton came out of the traps fast. Cannoni's couple of tries, just his first one's incredible. Like, watch back if you haven't seen the replay of a lot of that. It's crazy. Gareth Williams, thoughts on Blacker at scrum half?
Good, growing in confidence, try scorer, got an eye for a gap. You think there now he's got Kieran Hardy and Gareth Davies in front of him, and yet he's taking his chance. Really good support lines, explosive. Neat and tidy. He was good against Connacht in the second half when they came back in that one towards the end of the last season. So yeah, I like him. There's another one, Ruben Morgan-Williams at the Ospreys.
He's really nice little player.
Mate, we got a good one at Cardiff Blues. What's his name? Hill, is it? Tommy Hill?
Yeah. Hill.
And then look at the Dragons. Dan Barbos came on with Rodri Williams. We've never had a problem really at halfback in Wales.
No.
We've got buckets full of them. Tight heads. We need to start planting in the manure.
And second rows. God, you can't make those things. You're either born a freak or you're not.
I was going somewhere different with that, but you didn't. It was interesting looking at the attitude to defence at the weekend, because there was one sort of big exception to that. I would say it's how Munster turned up at the RDS.
Yeah,
like, they came out with the bit between their teeth, and they really, really, really showed up. Like, we touched on the very start of the show. Look, this was almost a full strength Munster, pretty much was, maybe with one exception. Leinster they've a big game coming up this weekend, but you still had some serious quality on show. But there was a huge difference in the way these two sides came out to play from the very start of this game.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's a different kettle of fish when your big players turn up. So you look at the performances of Deolande, CJ Stander, Tyg Byrne, Conor Murray, right? I know all the others fitting around that, but then your fantastic four show up and perform. Boom, it's a different kettle of fish. Unfortunately, they don't show up when it's crunch time, or they haven't shown up when it's crunch time against Leinster in the last couple of years. And now Joey Carberry's back as well. I think it's no surprise that some of these players are playing well because there's a Lions tour coming up,
Yeah,
and it's
last
quite
couple of weeks.
timely. Yeah, but Munster, I did tip them, didn't I? For they were disappointed in the final, but I think what we're seeing is where they were heading, in terms of their momentum.
I think
And
it was really. Oh, sorry, go on.
I'm not surprised, if I'm honest. I am surprised that Leinster getting beat by so many, and it might just be a hangover. And I look ahead. Yeah, you're right.
I think it was quite impressive, though, was Munster's defensive lineup, because they gave Leinster all sorts of problems that you don't tend to see from Leinster. And it may be purely anecdotal, but Munster seemed to be playing a little bit more attacking rugby. They box kicked less off 9. They, for once, going through the stats, Munster carried the ball more, which you never see. They up over and above Leinster, and they had parity in defenders beaten and line breaks, which you'd never see when Munster are playing Leinster. So they made some little tweaks, and it was clear in the middle. Farrell and De Allende, they basically did what they wanted to all afternoon. I thought Farrell was amazing.
Yeah, he was kind of manhandling people. And there were a couple
he was slinging second rows around like he was in the WWE. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's one of Leinster's biggest home defeats in a long, long, long time.
Yeah, didn't score a try.
Scored a try. It's extraordinary. I mean, it just we do. I think maybe you can take it as an assumption that Leinster playing at home, Connacht accepted. They just win always, and it doesn't always happen. You need to play the game.
This is good for us. I mean, I'm a little bit of, I quite like the dominant team that beats everybody, and you want to champion them, and that's good. But it is good for us that they've been beaten. They haven't scored a try. It's Munster.
Yeah.
Because there's all of a sudden now, this breathes life into the Rainbow Cup, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The Dragons winning, so convincingly that Munster go to the RDS and win. Benetton, fantastic. Zebra put up another good show, didn't they? And
they played well, remember?
Yeah, it bodes well to have a competitive competition, which is what we want. I think a lot of people
there in the corner.
Buddy's in, buddy boy.
Hello, Dean Bud. He's out of quarantine.
The Budmeister.
He's been in quarantine since last May.
Yeah, I'd leave him in quarantine for a bit longer. You don't know where he's been. Okay. Welcome,
Dean.
Good to see you. So that was the games that were. It's been an interesting start. The games that we haven't touched on: Edinburgh 24, Zebra 18. We've touched on everything else, I think. Sorry again, Glasgow.
Can I just say one quick thing about Papali'i? I know we're not going to talk too much because I always give him a hard time because he had about 400 red cards in his first 3 games.
I know what's coming here.
He was really good on the weekend. He was on for about, I think he played 31 minutes. He was the top carrier, 13 carries in 31. And I think he's finally adjusted his carrying height. So he's not carrying like a league player into people's windpipes and faces. But I thought he was fantastic.
Have you, by any chance, mentioned him in your column this week?
I may have. He may have. He is in. I've done a nice little bit on Connor. I thought they were fantastic. But it's good to see Papali'i because he's going to be a really good player, right? I'll say that now. Once he gets used to the tackling heights in Union, he was ferocious on the weekend.
Note to followers, said the man who Damien De Allende was a rubbish crash ball centre.
Papali'i probably snapped both his ankles now this weekend and he won't play for another 2 years.
Or someone else's. Just you've jinxed everyone now. You've jinxed everybody. Dean, we've missed you too, mate.
Buddy, I missed you.
So let's look at what's ahead of us. So this weekend, it's a slightly different slate because we have the kickoff of the South African portion of the Rainbow Cup.
Now we're talking.
So we've got I'm going to be very sponsor friendly tonight. Watch this. The DHL Stormers versus the Cell C Sharks, and then the Vodacom Bulls against the Emirates Lions. So that's a 1 o'clock UK and 6 o'clock UK. That's on Saturday, May the 1st. They're both on Premier and Air, and we'll be getting into them very much so, hopefully with expertise next week. We have to line some of this up. As well on the slate this weekend, Ulster fans, Leicester against Ulster. Friday night. Challenge Cup.
That'll be a good game.
Could be good. Hope it's good for Ulster fans.
I think
mainly.
it will be good. I think it.
Yeah.
I think. Well, you know my feelings on the English Premiership. Although
I was just teeing you up there.
Oh, you were team, yeah.
Leicester are playing pretty well though.
Yeah, but you know, I still fancy Ulster. I do. I think they've got the game, and you know, we underestimate Connacht at your peril. You know, who did a job on them, but I still think Ulster can go to Leicester and win. I do. Said it here first.
So that's our Friday night, and then so on Saturday we'll get to Sunday in a second. On Saturday, Paul, you're our resident general Southern Hemisphere maniac when it comes to following rugby players.
Is the word I prefer.
Yeah, who are you looking forward to seeing?
All of it, to be honest. As far as I'm concerned, that's what I know. There's a lot of European rugby on, but that's what my weekend will be about. This is all about those squads. It's also about Lions. This is like our little window now into the Bok Lions warm up. You know, this is what I've been waiting for. It'll be fantastic. I think the big thing I'm looking for is to see how they are type fives are different to the type fives up north, because we tend to think, well, not all of their sides done it, but we tend to think of them as being very big, you know, all the locks, 6'8", head like buckets, 21 stone, you know, and players like Malherbe, you know, they are tight edge, for instance. If you're not familiar with Malherbe, he's like a skip, right? He is absolutely enormous. I don't know how much he weighs. He looks like a player from the 80s, you know, he's sort of all chest and stomach.
I was going to say, you need to be very specific. It's a front row from the 80s, right? Because if you look back at 80s rugby, there's lots of different shapes that we don't see anymore.
Yeah, tiny little props as well. But like, you see players like Malherbe, so that's what I'm looking forward to, really. Let's get a little look at, you know, are they playing the game differently, or is it like a lazy stereotype that it's all big forwards? And of course, all the big star names that come with it, you know. I can't wait for that for the weekend. And then more importantly, you know, looking to the future, seeing those guys coming over and playing here.
Well, look, we're gonna have the Lions squad coming out very soon, and it is kind of weird that we watched a lot of Super Rugby Aotearoa. We watched, I would say, I've watched less Super Rugby Australia. We have had no Super Rugby South Africa, so this is our chance to watch some of these guys, and it'll be really interesting to see how hard they come out here. I would assume that just like for the Lions, spots are up for grabs. They haven't played a test match in a long, long time.
Well, like you say, these are Lions. These are Bok trials now for the Lions. That's what these are. You know, in and around it being for the Rainbow Cup. These games are massive in South African rugby.
I think they have to be. I mean, I was speaking to one of the Scarlets coaches for the game Sunday, and he said that Jonathan Davis wanted to play to put himself in the shop window, you know, and you have to think that there's other boys who, even on the fringes, something like Ross Moriarty, Aaron Wainwright, probably have come out of that because they weren't in the Welsh Six Nations team. Navidi and Talupe Falatau and Tipuric would befront that. But it's an opportunity. That's what I said about Munster. You know, all of a sudden, you've got an opportunity to put yourself bang in the shop window. Gatland's around these games. You know, you saw him in a lot of games on the weekend. And I think it'll be the same for the South Africans because you're right, they haven't played a test match for ages. They played Currie Cup stuff. This is different now. Here's our opportunity. We'll have a couple of bangs at it. And we aren't traveling now, so we've got to play each other. Great. It's trial matches. Razi must be going. I'm sure Razi will have instructed them all, you know, right, how many he wants to play, how many he doesn't want to play, how long for. I don't know that. I'm just assuming that that's the case, because if he's got a handle over the 4 teams, then it'd be stupid not to, you know, and to get involved.
You know, there are big question marks over that Bok team, which we'll see now at 10. You know, Pollard, Elton Yankees, they're not exactly deep at 10.
No.
You know, who is going to be playing there come the summer? So, you know, these matches are really important, especially.
And there's a couple of boys playing over here, and when I say here, Europe, who could go deep into the season. You know, so there's opportunities for guys back home to put their hand up. So I'm expecting some fireworks. I watched some of the Currie Cup stuff.
Yeah.
And, it's not all, slam bang, big
No, it's not.
forward stuff. It's not.
No.
You've got athletic back rowers now. You've got small wing, not small, but, quick, fleet-footed back threes. You remember Rhino Smith came over with the Cheetahs. Brilliant, players of his ilk, Mapimpi, and these sort of things, sort of players who will surprise you. And they got serious gas, and they want to go. They want to run. So I implore all our Pro 14 fans to watch next weekend.
Oh, absolutely.
And see what we're coming for next season.
Well, put it this way: if you don't watch next weekend, you're going to be fucking lost when that's what we're talking about next
All
Monday.
next weekend. Oh, here we go. Look, Williams there for box at 10. See, that could happen.
Yeah,
a bit more of a gamble.
Yeah, Rob Dupree.
Okay, so you need to do your homework now for next week, because this will be good. Looking forward to this. So this is we've got 3 rounds now, which they've brought the fixtures out for the South African rounds of this. First 3 rounds are May 1st, 8th, and 15th. So they're going bang, 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 3 weeks in a row. Then there's a game on Sunday. Ronan O'Gara on his own is playing against Leinster, because that's kind of how it's been built. It's going to be interesting. A really, really good bit of research here by producer Adam Redmonds. That match last weekend was the first time that Leinster have not scored a try in the league since November 2014.
You're
In
joking.
an 18-12 win over Ospreys. That is a long, long time.
Good Lord.
So good pull. They will need to play better. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Ross Byrne in this game, and we'll see how it goes. I think we will spend a bit of time on that next week. I'm looking forward to it. La Rochelle are quality. Got some really good players. Looking forward to this, and that bit of Rog intrigue around the edges. It's great. Quick call here: Ulster and Leinster. How many finalists are we seeing?
I'll back Leinster, right?
Me too.
I think Sale were poor against La Rochelle, and then there was a moment in the game where it just turned and La Rochelle pulled away. But I don't think Leinster will give them that, and I think this result against Munster will sharpen their focus. I'm going for an Irish double, not because I'm a stooge for an Irishman on this podcast. I'm Welsh, I'm impartial, and I have my own opinions.
I'll go Leinster too.
And how about Ulster or Leicester? You from earlier on, you seem. I'm not sure you're going to immediately go for Ulster on this one, are you, Paul?
No, not at all. I think Leicester could win that.
It's your side bet.
No, right. I'm going to go Leicester.
Let's go a bottle of pop.
All right, this crushed bottle of Pepsi Max.
Let's go Dandelion and Burdock.
Righto. Yeah, I'll go Leinster, Leicester.
Okay.
Leinster, Ulster.
Interesting. Let's see what happens. All of the round 4 to round 6 fixtures in the Rainbow Cup, by the way, should be out next week. They're just waiting to sort all those out. So we'll see. As said, if you were missing the start of the show, we'll have the chief executive of the Guinness Pro 14, Martin and I, on the show next week. So there'll be a lot of questions we can talk about.
Next week is big.
Fromage.
It'll be South Africa and the big cheese.
I want to go through a couple of questions before we leave you all. There's been a few good ones in here. Let's go Fanny Brent Stratton, because we still have some very special outro music to this show. How do you guys feel of the disqualified cheetah team?
Yeah, I do feel sorry for them.
We do
How
miss
can
them.
you
We
not
like
feel
the
sorry
cheetahs.
for them?
Yeah.
I think the cheetahs, right, embraced the tournament.
Yeah, they did.
And they grew into it. Difficult first, but then they came back really well and adjusted. I commentated on them at the Knoll in Neath, believe it or not. It could be further away from Bloemfontein, and on a rainy, cold night, and they did a job. They played good stuff,
didn't they?
Yeah, they played good stuff, and then finished the game on a great driving lineup, which is what they weren't about that, but they learned through and they defended mauls really well. And I thought, they just get in this, and it's unfortunate. So Fanny, sorry about that, but market forces and so on. It's a real shame, but I do understand that some of those players have gone to some of the other teams as well, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. And a couple, well, yeah, Reese's over in with Leicester. He's playing really well too. Didn't really do much, weirdly, at the Cheetahs. And then all of a sudden now he's one of the best players in the Gallagher.
Yeah, Rhino Smith's in Italy, isn't he?
Yeah. So there's a good question there now.
Right. Next question from Calex. Have you seen the rumors about Franco Smith possibly leaving Italy head coach role due to the new president possibly switching things up? Italian sources say the favorite for the job is Kieran Crowley.
Italian sources. Ragu.
Oh, too easy.
What am I doing?
Too easy.
So sorry. I was just saying that in my own mind and then my mouth opened. Sorry.
But from Federico Perrin, who follows in, yes, Calex, here in Italy sounds like it's almost done for the switch between Smith and Crowley.
Wow. I think that's a really nice move if you're moving into that new Italian squad with those young players coming through.
But he's just left Benetton.
Well, I know. Yeah. What I mean is that's not the... Hang on.
Hang on. What's he typing away?
That's not the usual sort of Italian hand grenade, is it? Where you're taking on sometimes an old squad and what you're going to do, how you're going to freshen it up. If I was taking on that Italian job, now is the time I'd want it.
Never believe anything until it's been officially denied. Okay? That's all I'll say.
What's the breaking news?
We've got commenting Ewan Davies, Paul, opinion on Damien McKenzie. Were you watching that last weekend? The last few weekends?
The last 4 weekends. I tried asking someone because I think he's kicked a match-winning pen or conversion in the last 3 games at least. And then a match-winning try the weekend before that. The Chiefs now, with Gatland away, I'm not saying it's anything to do with Gatland being away, but they're a different team. I mean, they look like they're going to end up in the final now, whereas they did look like they were going to have the worst
They are in the final.
In the final, there we are. The worst record, in history of Kiwi Super Rugby. So it's
quiz question. When did Warren Gatland last win a game as a coach?
Oh my God.
Ooh. Do you know this?
It's a pretty easy one.
Is it with the Lions? No,
it was the quarter final
of the World Cup.
World Cup in 2019.
No way. Yeah. I think the big thing with McKenzie is, who's going to be playing at 15 for the All Blacks. It doesn't really matter. They've got 3 of them who can kick from about 900 meters. So
Harley Worthy. Speaking of fantastic carriers, Max Llewellyn was brilliant.
Yeah, he was good. He
looks like a good prospect.
He was good, fair play, old Max. And he's been around a little while now, but...
how old is he? 24?
Yeah, a bit younger than that, I'd say. Holley will tell us now, but I would imagine he's only about 22. But, big guy, but he's better than that. He's more than just a big ball carrier. He's got a bit about him. There's another one coming as well at 13. Holley, tell us who that is. The young guy... he's 20, Harley says. The young guy will play outside him. So these two together, if they choose to play Ben Thomas at 15 or 10, these two could be the future. Harley will come up with a 13. Now he's only 18 or 19, the big 13.
Oh, God, yeah, I know what you mean.
It begins with M. It'll come to me now.
I've written about him.
He's
Mason Grady.
Gatland won a few at the beginning of Super Rugby 2020. Oh, there we are. I apologise, Ollie. You corrected me.
I love live fact checks. It's great.
I'll double check that, mine.
Mason Grady is the name of that boy. He's really good.
Max Llewellyn is 22.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Here we go. It's like Wikipedia here.
Can I pull back before we go? Fish 1167. Paul, post your Lions squad, then log out of Twitter for a day.
Oh my God.
See what happens.
Honestly, I'd rather remove all of my skin than put a Lions team on Twitter. Not happening.
Well, we find a way. We can find a way to pitch it next week if people really want it, but it's fraught with danger.
Thankless is the word.
When are they announcing the squad?
10 days.
What we should do, right? We should put our squads into each other. Or
He's
to a
getting,
super
this is
producer.
Holley getting competitive here. Look, you can see it in his eyes.
I love
He
this.
just wants to crush us.
I used to steal money from my mates down the pub in a bottle, right? Put your 38-man squad nearest to it and your
10 quid
20
each.
quids. 20's in,
20's
nearest
in.
to cricket inside him, 49 from the boys now. So,
There's another
I hope
bottle
they're
of
not
pop on
listening.
the line, is it?
We put a bottle of pop on it, right? And put your 36's name in, I think, isn't it?
It's supposed to be, yeah.
Because it's normally 38, so 36 down, and nearest amount to it wins the bottle of pop.
Right
I've
on.
got a better
It's
idea.
the cream soda.
Never mind us. This is one where next week we ask our good people. Next week, Sean arrested for insider trading. Are you a connected person anymore? No. Very, very important in rugby circles. That we might think about the good people who come along and watch and listen. They might give that a shot now. See if they can take something off you.
That'd be good.
Right. I think we are done for tonight. Thank you very much, Greg Garner, for joining us earlier on in the show for a good chat about the Rainbow Cup's first experience with law variations and captain's challenges. That was good. Listen back if you didn't catch that at the start. Again, we'll have the head of the Pro 14, we'll have Martin and I on next week. So any questions around the State of the Union with the Pro 14, the Rainbow Cup, anything to do with that, pop them in and we'll get to it next week. Thank you, Paul Williams. Thank you, Sean Holley. Thank you, all of you, for giving us some of your time tonight watching live with us or listening back on a pod as you get out a little bit further from home now that things are relaxing a little bit for all of us. My name is Andy McGeady. That was Under the Sticks, a podcast brought to you by the Pro 14, and we will talk to you soon.
They call me cheetah, cheetah, cheetah. Ooh, cheetah, cheetah, cheetah. I love my cheetah.